Introduction. Scotland has an intimate connection with the sea. Such a fact is not surprising, as she has a mainland coastline of over 6,000 miles and another 4,000 miles of island coast, compared to a land border with England of only 108 miles. Indeed, given that the southern land border was often closed through bloody war, historical Scotland was nearly an island nation. From before recorded history, people have arrived in what is now Scotland by water, either as colonists or invaders. Roman galleys pulled past her coasts, the Gaels crossed from Ireland with the sword and the cross, while Norsemen brought fire, slaughter, and their superbly flexible longships, from which evolved the Hebridean birlinn. English warships blockaded the coast and sometimes fell victim to their Scottish counterparts. Pirates eased out from Scottish harbours on the west and east coast, while whaling ships dared the frozen north. And traders crossed and recrossed the North Sea and headed south and west across the Atlantic and to all points beyond. Scottish trade with the Baltic, the Netherlands and France extends back to at least the Middle Ages, and from the 17th century Scottish ships began to probe beyond European waters. The French sought out Scottish shipbuilding skills in the 13th century, and by the 19th, Scotland was building much of the world's shipping. From the Great Michael, the flagship of King James IV, to Cutty Sark and the stupendous Queen Elizabeth, Scotland created some of the finest ships ever to kiss the sea. Dundee was the world's greatest jute city and Europe's most important whaling port. Aberdeen dominated the trawling industry. Leith was Scotland's royal port, while Glasgow was Scotland's busiest. By the 19th century, men from the Northern Isles and the Hebrides were found in every ocean in the world. Scottish fishermen have scoured the seas from Greenland to the Bay of Biscay and from the White Sea to the Scillies, with herring ports such as Wick, Anstruther and Stornoway amongst the most active in Europe. Given this background, it is hardly surprising that Scotland should produce a plethora of maritime personalities and nautical stories. From her ports came adventurers and explorers, warriors and traders, smugglers and fishermen. All have had stories to tell, but most have been lost over time. Some, however, have been retained, either by accident or through deliberate recording. This small book recounts only a very few of Scotland's tales of the sea. The book is set out in 4 sections. Section 1 covers some Scottish maritime personalities, warriors, explorers, an admiral and a couple of lesser known but equally interesting people. Section 2 highlights some Scottish ships, and ships with a Scottish connection. Section 3 gives the often neglected story of a few maritime places, and Section 4 highlights the piratical side of Scottish seafaring. The stories and articles within each section are standalone pieces. They are not in chronological order, but only placed as chance and my own instincts decided. The concentration on the East Coast is purely because I was working there. All in all, this book has no intention of appearing academic. Instead, it is an introduction to some aspects of the Scottish experience with the sea.